Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Dota 2 commentary. This is a match between Speed Gaming International, formerly known as Rattlesnake International, formerly known as Kaipi, versus Team Dignitas. Now, this is the first time I've seen Team Dignitas play since their changes, because again, I don't really watch too much Dota, but I'm trying to get back into the thick of things. So it'll be interesting to see how their style meshes up. I know that Korok is a very aggressive player, but 1437 Beta is, well, 1437 is a very aggressive support player, but Beta is always more of a passive support player. So we'll see if the styles mesh up. Infinity has been a long time North American pub star. Keep in mind, he was, I think, on the USA team in the MYM Pride, or the MYM National League, whatever it was, in Dota 1. So he's been around for a minute. And of course, as you all know, Clairvoyance, one of the casts for Toby, AC, also doing quite well in Dota. I think he's standing in because all I know is that these four members are pretty much guaranteed on Team Dignitas. I'm not too sure about Clairvoyance just yet.
5 seconds remaining.
Meanwhile, Speed Gaming International, formerly known as Rattlesnake International, formerly known as Kaipi, or KP. I guess it's KP because the logo is just literally a K and a P. So I guess it's going to be KP, but anyways, they've had some struggles recently. They had pretty remarkable falling out in the Starladder Land Finals, or in the Starladder playoffs. They were pretty much guaranteed, but they lost their last two matches to Quantic and 4FC. So teams have been sort of picking up on their playstyle. They are known to play a bit greedier than usual. They are known to try to do as well as they possibly can in the mid game, but their late game teamfight execution leaves something to definitely be desired. And they always place a heavy emphasis on Troll Warlord, a lot more emphasis than other teams. Sometimes they run it as a carry with the Eternal Envy on him. Sometimes they put Sing Sing on him in the middle lane, but it looks like Speed Gaming are going to put Paladai back in the captain's draft chair, or in the captain's mode chair for the drafter, rather than Eternal Envy. Maybe Eternal Envy just wants to concentrate on his carry skills, but I don't know. I think drafting and carrying are just two completely different animals. So Team Dignitas is going to pick up the Darkseer as well as Razor. This is the first time I've seen Razor in a bit, even though he's pretty much the known counter for OD. If there isn't an OD in pool, Razor doesn't really see that much attention. And I think there's a couple reasons for that, because Razor is a very strong static laner, and of course OD wants to sit in his lane for as long as possible. But in terms of reliability in the mid game, he's not that reliable because he doesn't have naturally high strength growth, and unless you pick up treads, then he's going to be naturally pretty squishy. And if you pick up phase boots, well, he's going to be even squishier. So he's pretty squishy, and of course the annoying thing about static link in mid-game teamfights is that it takes longer and longer for it to become effective. It takes 10 seconds, but you pretty much need R5, but unfortunately with Razor's HP pool, and the fact of the matter is that he'll have to go for a different build in the mid lane if he's not facing against an OD, since he won't be targeted by a single target ability nearly as much. Then he's going to be squishier and easier to kill, so that's one reason why Razor might not be receiving as much attention. Another reason could be that he's not reliable, because it really relies on the enemy team's positioning in order to do well. I mean, his spell is Static Link wants the enemies to be up close next to him, but Plasma Field wants to be further away from him, and his ultimate can oftentimes be underwhelming unless it hits that level 16 mark or has an Agnum Scepter to back it up. So I still think Razor is a little bit underrated, because teams only seem to pick him up against the OD, but I think right now he has a nice place in Dota 2. He's not perma-picked or perma-banned, but he's still a viable option, and that seems pretty balanced in my opinion.
10 seconds remaining.
Meanwhile, Speed Gaming gonna get themselves a Clockwork. Now, I know Speed Gaming like to sometimes put Clockwork in the middle lane and have Sing Sing play it. I know EG recently have been running amok with Mojo, Stormstyle, aka MSS, on the Clockwork in the middle lane. But I think this will most likely be a Bone 7 Clockwork in the offlane position, because I don't know if Envy really plays that much carry Troll. I know when Troll was first introduced in Captain's Mode, Envy played him a bunch, but it seems like Speed Gaming are more settled on Troll being a good mid laner. But if that's the case, there's really not too much that Troll can do against Razor, because Razor has some decent range, and he can drain a lot of Troll's auto attack damage, even though Troll does have the annoying spammable whirling axis ability that can really make Razor's life very, very miserable. So Speed Gaming ban out the Timber Saw. Interesting decision. Not too sure why they ban out the Timber Saw. Honestly, I don't really know what to make of it because Dignitas already have an offlaner in the Darkseer. Razor could potentially be an aggressive challenge hero or a safe lane carry farmer, but he doesn't seem the most reliable carry to put the bulk of your safe lane farm on, so I think he'll be a mid lane choice. And if that's the case, then where would you put Timbersaw? So I'm not too sure why the Timbersaw ban was necessary, but maybe they just are going to pick up pretty squishy lineup that likes to get in your face, and Timbersaw, of course, just rips through those heroes like a hot knife through butter. Or I guess like a hot saw through trees. Dignitas gonna ban the Visage, so they might perhaps be toying with the idea of a trial versus trial, and since they don't have the first pick up after the second pick phase, no, they do. Well, that shows you how much of Dota 2 I've been watching recently, as Dignitas gonna get rid of the Enchantress, Speed Gaming gonna get rid of the OD, so it's gonna be Troll in the mid lane most likely, and Dignitas gonna put Chen in the safe lane jungle, so this will be an off lane Darkseer, probably a mid lane Razor, although he could potentially go in the safe lane. I mean, Troll is not really... he's good in the mid lane, but he won't dominate you. He'll just pick up his last hits, although he could potentially dominate you depending on the lineup, on the matchup. If it's a melee hero, then Troll will definitely dominate that hero, so I think this will be a mid lane Razor, and Dignitas is going to pick up the Chen, so Razor and Bane don't really have that much synergy in a dual lane, so well, actually, I don't know, it still could be a safe lane Razor, because of course you can drop the Nightmare and get pretty much 4 seconds of link drainage for free.
Team Dignitas's turn to ban.
But Speed Gaming gonna pick up the Crystal Main, so this has all intentions of being an aggressive Trine with Bone 7 on the safe lane Clockwork, since Crystal Main one of the best Trine versus Trine supports because of her incredible AoE, and she does have some nice disables to lock people in place, especially against, well, I don't know, because Chen makes that a bit more difficult, but Crystal Main's probably the best support to deal with Chen in a Trine versus dual lane matchup with a Chen jungle, because of course you can Frostbite a creep and then immobilize them for 10 seconds. Weaver, of course, probably the most survivable carry in the game, with lifesteal, I suppose, in the early game. Can do pretty well in a Trine vs Trine scenario, so I'm inclined to believe that this will be a Trine vs Trine matchup, as Dignitas are probably going to go with a dual lane of Bane and some other carries, since Razor will most likely be in the middle lane. Dignitas gonna ban the Enigma. Interesting. Maybe they think that Speed Gaming will go for a bit more of their aggressive style draft, but I don't think Enigma would have been the option unless they believe that Speed Gaming would run a defensive dual lane of Crystal Main Weaver and not try to challenge a jungle Chen, but I guess we're going to have to find out. It is quite difficult to challenge a jungle Chen, but Speed Gaming currently have the heroes that can do it pretty well, once they hit level 2 that is. Speed Gaming gonna get rid of the Shadow Fiend. Shadow Fiend has really seen a rise in popularity recently because he just does so much damage early on, and a competent Shadow Fiend player will have Bottle, Treads, and DKB by around the 12-minute mark, assuming of course he doesn't really get ganked. So that is just a ridiculous that's a ridiculous weapon to have in your arsenal, to get a magically immune carry that does an immense amount of damage on your lineup in 12 minutes. So Speed Gaming could potentially worry about that, but Dignitas is going to last pick up the Lifestealer, and this will be a defensive dual lane of Bane as well as Lifestealer. So in terms of Trine versus Trine, Lifestealer does pretty well against, well, he doesn't really do well, but he can hold his own for the most part, while Bane does some pulls against Weaver and Crystal Main. So we're going to see what the last support of Speed Gaming will be, as I'm inclined to believe that this will be a safe lane Clockwork, although it could be in the off lane. I don't know. Speed Gaming definitely have a more versatile draft than Dignitas, but that's because Dignitas picked up a jungle hero, which definitely restricts their access into lanes. Meanwhile, Speed Gaming have a lot of options. They could put Clockwork in the off lane, and if they do that, then he will be starred for levels, but that will mean safer farm for the Weaver in the safe lane. So I'm not too sure still how Speed Gaming will lane this, especially with the Bane as well as Lifestealer are two annoyingly difficult heroes to kill, one with Rage, one with a Nightmare. So Speed Gaming could potentially take this pick and then run a defensive tri lane. So Speed Gaming gonna take down some of its time. Right now they need a support, since the old Team Dignitas, the one with Fogged and AUI and Way Too Sexy, they sometimes ran Clockwork as support, but I don't think Speed Gaming would run the Clockwork as support in this game. They could potentially put Weaver in the off lane, Troll as a safe lane carry, and Clockwork in the middle lane. Man, Speed Gaming just have some really, really versatile lanes. I'm really not gonna lie. It's really difficult to predict how these lane matchups will go. But if it is going to be Razor in mid lane, then Clockwork really can't do anything against Razor. Weaver can do okay against Razor, but Speed Gaming going to pick up the Earthshaker. So, again, this doesn't really show if they're going to go offensive or defensive, since Earthshaker, by nature, is a pretty defensive support, but he can do pretty well in terms of blocking off the axis from the Chen in the aggressive trial lane. So, I guess we'll find out pretty shortly, and it will be a Weaver carry, it will be Sing Sing on the Troll, and it will be Bone 7 on the Clockwork. So if I had to guess, it's going to be a defensive trial rather than an aggressive trial, because Earthshaker, once he uses a couple of spells in the aggressive trial, he really can't do too much since he is a melee hero and his Claridos will most likely be disrupted. So if Earthshaker ever wants to roam to the mid lane to try to get a gank off onto Korok, then that will just leave his aggressive trial completely exposed. So I think this will be a defensive trial lane by Speed Gaming. Speed Gaming. The most generic name possible.
5 seconds
They should just call themselves, like, Speed Racer or something. Or just Elite Gaming or some other generic name, but it was what the organization chose, and these guys are under a pretty nice contract, so they definitely have to respect the wishes of the sponsor. I just wish the sponsor chose a less generic name, as good luck, have fun is the call. So introducing the players and teams on the side of Speed Gaming, it's going to be Pilot Eye playing the Earthshaker, Grazala, I guess that's Eternal Envy, some other weird anime name, going to be playing the Weaver, Sing Sing is playing the Troll Warlord, AUI 2000 is playing the Crystal Main, and Bone 7 is playing the Clockwork. Meanwhile, on the side of Team Dignitas, we're going to have 1437 playing the Shen, Korok is playing the Razor, Infinity is playing the Darkseer, Clairvoyance is playing the Lifesteal. Clairvoyance, I'll talk about him in a little bit, and Beatus is playing the Bane. So, as you all know, Take 5 was a team by Demon and Arteezy before they got disqualified for MLG, and Clairvoyance was on team. But Clairvoyance seems like he switches a lot of roles, and obviously he's extremely talented, so he can actually switch those roles. But I think on Take 5, he was a support or an offlane for the most part. And meanwhile, in this lineup, he's gonna be the hard farmer in the form of Lifestealer. So we'll have to see if he actually gets picked up by his sponsor team, what role he'll go towards. And shouts to spectators saying that Eternal Envy has no items, so this could definitely be a Midas rush. I think Weaver does benefit a decent amount from Midas, because Weaver, you want to get all of his skills maxed ASAP. Not only so they can do as much damage, but Weaver, he does do pretty well in all stages of the game, but if you manage to get a lot of experience very early on, he can just chase pretty much indefinitely, and scatter team fights in the early game, having the ability to chase forever is definitely going to be extremely useful.
Haste!
Y'all, Lifestealer decided to pick up a Stout Shield. Interesting decision, maybe anticipating Speed Gaming with going with an aggressive Chine, and again, that's largely because of Speed Gaming's very, very sort of creative drafting process. Even I didn't know what the lanes would be until the end, and in the end I still had to make a guess. And that is going to mean Bone 7 will pick up some sense of experience, since Chen will want to hit some levels very early on, and Darkseer is going to take a little bit of the jungle all to himself in the very early moments of the game. Because of course the Darkseer knows that Earthshaker and Crystal Main can definitely kill him, and they will kill him without too much of a fuss, as Korok going to drain as much damage as he possibly can. Going to get plus 56, but again, Whirling Axis is just so annoying to deal with early on, and once Sing Sing hits up that bottle, he should be pretty okay in terms of getting himself back into the lane, but Razor should have the slight CS advantage at the early stages of the game. So far it's difficult to say who'll have the advantage, and I think that's largely because usually when there's a jungle hero, the jungle team usually has the advantage very early on, since they won't have support who's farming in the who's getting double pull experience rather than solo pull experience. But in this matchup, Darkseer is going to take a lot of experience away from the Chen, and Chen is already forced to do some de-warding in order to actually get some jungle camps to use. So I think this is going to slightly favor Speed Gaming International in the very early stages game, just because Clockwork is going to get a bit more experience than he otherwise would. And AUI is just going to do some Frostbite farming, it seems like. But you got some of the worst creeps you could Frostbite farm. These Hellbear Smashers just simply won't die to a single Frostbite. It's going to take multiple Frostbites for them to actually go down. I think. I could be wrong. It looks like I'm wrong. No, I'm right. So 1437, level 2. He's getting his levels up at a respectable rate, but again, when you have 4 farmers in your jungle, there's only, you know, only so much you can do to farm in the jungle. But it seems like Darkseer is going to go back to the base in order to recharge his mana, as well as HP. Meanwhile, Korok already picked up the boots of speed. A really interesting decision, as Weaver... What about Weaver? He spent his gold, picked up a hand of Midas. Thank you, spectators. Looks like Weaver will probably get a 3.5 minute, 4 minute Midas, and that is definitely going to be pretty scary to deal with, since Weaver will be extraordinarily powerful in the early stages of the game. And that's also in large part because Dignitas decided to go for such a sort of greedy support draft. They picked up a Chen, and that means the safe lane farm will be largely unencumbered for the most part. But it seems like Dignitas want to make a maneuver. They're going to smoke up. Bone 7 is going to back off. He's already level 3, which is pretty impressive at this stage, as Beatus will drop the Nightmare. There are cogs as well as rockets in place, as Bone 7 is going to take a lot of damage, but Clockwork is very tanky. Look at 1437. His positioning means that he will always be next to the cogs, but AUI 2000 is there, and will be able to bail his teammate out of trouble. And looks like the two Singapore squad heroes, Singapore, god, Speed Gaming heroes will pick up a Hellbear Smasher for the troubles, but Clockwork is just so difficult to gank, especially with a Bane, who doesn't really do any damage in the very early stages. So it was a nice smoke gank attempt, but a level 3 Clockwork is just a bit too much to go upon. And this Clockwork is going to get a lot of levels very, very quickly.
Dire's bottom tower is under
attack. Infinity has picked up the Soaring, is getting a pretty fast level 5, and he's going to get more and more points in the vacuum relatively soon. Meanwhile, Envy has the Midas. We'll see what he decides to go for. Sometimes Weavers like to skip the boot speed, as I missed the first blood. I didn't expect Bone 7 to die. Looks like Bone 7 was just sticking around a bit too long, and that's the best way to deal with Clockwork. Get right up in his face before he can react, and that is going to be a very, very nice kill for Clairvoyance, as he's definitely going to be very thankful for that. Clockwork is just getting way too much done in the top lane, and that is going to allow Dignitas to catch up a bit, not only in their offlane for the Darkseer, but also give Chen a little bit of time to get his own levels back online without having to worry about to gank that offlane. Meanwhile, Korok versus Sing Sing, there is going to be a fissure attempt, as Korok is going to take a lot of damage. He is definitely going to die, as Troll Lord does pick up the kill. The long-range initiation of Earthshaker definitely is something that can't be underestimated. I've always felt like range is one of the most underrated aspects of Dota, and that's why I always have a difficult time wondering why Earthshaker is not actually in the competitive scene. But Clairvoyant's going to go on the offensive. Bone 7 won't initiate, as Paladai gonna get blocked by Beatus. Beatus is showing his talents. Gonna pick up a pretty easy kill on Paladai, but 1437 will get caught in the cogs as a response. Bone 7 trying to do whatever he can, as there will be a Nightmare. Will they go back on the offensive? I think Dignitas are realizing that's a little bit too dangerous, since Clockwork still had 450 HP to work with, and the other heroes are just too low in terms of HP. 1 or 2 more rockets, and that would have spelled the end for Chen. You know, Darkseer, very dangerous, gonna do some creep skipping. This late in the game, that's very, very dangerous, as... What? Now, I've met Eternal Envy in real life. He's an interesting guy, but sometimes it seems like he has these lapses in brain judgment. But I think that was more of a case of just Darkseer really disguising his intent, and Eternal Envy unfortunately didn't have the quickest reactions, although those reactions were pretty much instantaneous. Eternal Envy wanted to drop as much damage as he possibly could, then time-lapse away, and then secure the kill, but he should have probably just time-lapsed away to safety rather than go for the kill. And if it was me playing the Weaver, I would have pussied out at the first opportunity. But also, it's a bit of a growing trend these days. Darkseers like to pick up early points into wall evolution, and I think that's definitely a nice build, and this level 6, level 7 Wall Evolution definitely threw Eternal Envy off guard. Keep in mind, Wall still does a bit of initial damage, 150 damage at all levels if I'm not mistaken. And that is definitely a huge chunk of Weaver's HP in the early stages of the game. Still, Envy gonna have a lot of levels, still has the highest CS in the game, and gonna be able to pick up his GPM in short order. Meanwhile, Korok, 35 CS compared to Sing Sing's 26. Again, the damage drain just means that it's going to be difficult to actually get the advantage. But here comes the wraparound attempt as Pilot Eye as well as Crystal Main are smoked up. They're going to drop an Observer Ward. Can Pilot Eye get the block off? He will. And that is going to be another death for Korok as Clockwork actually picks up the last hit. And we'll see if Dignitas can recoup some of that advantage. All the while, Clairvoyance was able to kill off Bone 7 in the meantime. So we'll see how that was done. And just rage, hit, dead. Meanwhile, Weaver, recognizing his early game aggression was a little bit unneeded, gonna play a bit more safe, but now have time lapse on cooldown for a little bit, as he could potentially be in danger for a gank, although against a very immobile Chen as well as Bane support duo, that's not likely gonna happen in the next 50 seconds. Meanwhile, there is going to be a rush to the rune, and Pilot Eye is just waiting there with the open arms saying, come at me, Beatus. There is going to be a Nightmare as, ooh, he will pick up the runes. Can he drop a Brain Sap? He definitely has enough mana. Use the Brain Sap, bro. I don't know if that will save your life. It looks like he might try to deny himself to the neutrals. I don't know why he's not Brain Sapping. Well, that was something else. I'm not too sure why Beatus just had a momentary lapse in judgment. Maybe felt like the turn rate would just be a little bit too much, as Korok is going to come in. We'll find AUI, but AUI will end up dying. That ultimate with the extra 112 damage just shoot through that Crystal Main super quickly. And all the while, it seems like Dignitas will claim the first tower of the game. As Infinity going to be in a lot of trouble. We'll have to back off. Weaver going to have the Shikuchi back on, but he most certainly won't dive against a tier 1, although the fissure was just almost there, as Infinity very lucky to escape that gank. But it seems like Dignitas have sort of recuperated a little bit from their early game struggles in terms of finding levels because of the Darkseer as well as Shen hogging the jungle. But 1437, well, he's going to pick up level 6 relatively soon. I'm a bit worried about Bane's levels, but this always seems to be the case for Beatus. He always picks up, or he always seems to be on these heroes who just doesn't hit level 6 until like the 80-minute mark. And he will be 80 minutes in the game and he'll have maybe boots and some wards and a magic wand. But in this game, Bane is definitely a hero who wants to have that level 6 online, so you can get the Fiend's Grip up on the Weaver, you can get the Nightmare to shut down a hero in the meantime, get the Brain Sap to shoot through that Crystal Main's HP very, very quickly. And I think it's time for Dignitas to prioritize getting Beatus some levels, as he is nowhere close to hitting level 6, not even close to hitting level 5. And oftentimes people just like, well, why isn't Beatus getting more levels? He's obviously a terrible player. Usually it's in the team's game plan to sacrifice the support to this extent. And obviously there's only so much room in the jungle where you can steal experience, especially when there's a Darkseer as well as a Chen competing for experience. So Beatus, unfortunately, did take the short end of the stick in that regard. I'm not too sure what the logic is behind the double points into Enfeeble build, and the only solo point into Nightmares. There will be a Hand of God trying to preserve Infinity's life, as Infinity will go back on the offensive, going to surge himself for it. I think he meant to wanted to surge Clairvoyance forward, as they will pick up a kill. That is going to allow Beatus to pick up that crucial level 5, and Clairvoyance, he's going to dive in, but the fissure simply won't be there in time, as Clairvoyance, utilizing the strength of his hero, will be able to pick up his 3rd kill of the game. And you can see Lifestealer, in terms of DPS, will be able to pick up the levels a lot sooner. Sing Sing just will barely be able to escape by the skin of his teeth. Nice recognition by Sing Sing to teleport from a situation that seemingly had no hope left. Meanwhile, on the bottom lane, AUI is also level 4, and Crystal Main doesn't really need that many levels, but she will be food later on. Well, I mean, Dignitas don't especially have that much burst damage, but a level 4 Crystal Main with less than 600 HP will pretty much die in 2 hits to a Razor with maybe 80 points of link damage, or a Lifestealer with any sort of items. So AOI is going to have to be careful, but Korra, or Clairvoyance, is just roaming the woods very effectively, and it's clear he wants blood on AOI. Instead, he'll find some golems instead. You know, this ward, unfortunately, won't be able to spot the movement of Dignitas supports, as AOI will be able to escape, and that's the reason why you do these long-ass pulls, not only to reduce creep damage, but also to reduce the danger of getting ganked in the jungle. But Dignitas will translate this movement into perhaps securing the bottom tower, as they do have heroes in place. Wall of Replica will be back online, and this should be a tower, especially with Chen in the picture, as this tower won't be too long for this world. All the while, Sing Sing as well as Pilot gonna push down the middle tower. There's really nothing that Korra can do except spam that plasma field. And this tower still hasn't followed. We'll see if Speed Gaming going to defend this, but with the Chen creeps as well as the Darkseer in such a good position, they really can't have any hopes of defending this tier 1 tower. And they didn't have the glyph online, so if they teleport, it would just been a waste of gold. Chen does pick up the last hit. That is definitely going to be very useful, as now he'll start making his way towards Mecha, as Sing Sing with the haste rune just juking back and forth. The mobility of Speed Gaming with the haste rune is just too much for Dignitas to deal with, because Dignitas, keep in mind, have one disabler. And that disabler only has one disable, and that's Nightmare. He doesn't even have the longer range disable in the form of Fiend Script. As will there be a cancellation on the teleport? No, there will not. And all the while, AOI as well as Bone 7 will get their farm going. Bone 7 has sort of patented the Blade Mail into Armlet Rush on Clockwork. It's a really interesting build, as, I mean, I do like the early Blade Mail, since Clockwork, his strength is in the early to mid portion of the game, and if he dies, then he'll just pretty much be a hook and a cogs in the late game. So if he gets off to a strong early game, then that can definitely go a long way in terms of preserving his life in the mid to late stages of the game. I'm not too sure the reasoning behind the armlet, other than just giving him a bit of extra armor, as well as a nice bit of extra HP. But we'll see what Bone 7 decides to do. Blade Mail is still about 500 gold away, and Armlet is 1k gold after this 1800 gold mark. So, still up in the air what he'll decide to do. I still think he's going to rush the Blade Mail, but he might find himself a bit starved for mana. You know, Bane finally hit that level 6 mark, and if you check out the goal graph, you can see that the Dignitas squad do have a slight goal advantage, but that can be largely attributed to the additional tower they've taken. Dignitas, surprisingly enough, also have an experience advantage, but again, Crystal May and Pilot Eye have just been roaming as best they possibly can. And since Dignitas also have a kill lead advantage, then it pretty much serves the purpose that Dignitas will have the overall experience advantage. So Darkseer secures the mech. We'll see what Chen decides to go for. Picks up a fast point booster. Now, I don't think this is going to be an Aghanim's Rush, simply because Aghanim's Chen, I mean, Hand of God, once you get to level 11, costs like 300 mana, and Aghanim's Chen won't be able to spam that, even with the usage of Arcane Boots, as there will be a hook shot. Bone 7 just going to barely with his Infinity, looking to scrub on out of there, but here comes the pursuit by Pilot Eye. Will drop an Echo Slam. Infinity likely will die. Will he get Chain Stun? He will get Chain Stun. Wasn't able to drop the mechanism, unfortunately for Infinity, as Clairvoyance will pick up a rebuttal kill. AUI might be on the receiving end of a Fiend Script, and he definitely was. Speed is more than happy to snatch up the kills. It's going to be a 2-for-1, but keep in mind that Dignitas spent a couple TPs, and Sing Sing is receiving some time to farm back up. You know, NB will probably go for the Linked Sphere build. Gonna go a long way in terms of getting rid of spells like Fiend's Grip, Nightmare, as well as the Static Link, which can be ever so annoying. And Dignitas, keep in mind, don't have that many target abilities, but the target abilities they have, they definitely want to go through Lincolns. So they could be in a bit of a rough position if NB does pick up the Linked Sphere, which he will pick up relatively soon at this rate, only around 2k gold away from finishing. But yeah, back to Aghanim's Chen. He won't rush it straight up because his mana pool is just simply not useful enough. And early game team fights, they are a bit scramble heavy, but Chen definitely wants to be using a lot of his abilities, wants to send people back, wants to drop nukes, and wants to use Hand of God. And if he has to use 2 Hand of Gods, then he won't be able to use any other spells. So I think this might be a point booster into Vlad's Rush for Chen, but I could be mistaken. Me on Bone 7 it goes for a 4-staff. Usually Bone 7, he has these crazy builds, but once he gets these crazy builds, he usually does not tend to stray away from him, as Clairvoyance is just going in, picks up Pilot Eye, and Sing Sing gonna go back on the offensive. But Dignitas are here, they want to push in. Unfortunately for Dignitas, Speedis does not have much mana to work with, as they lose one Arcane Boots, but that is only going to be enough for a Brain Sap. And Beat is going to go for the Max and Fuel build. I've never really seen this done except against Lifestealer. I guess it's for, well, Weaver? But I don't know. It's obviously for Troll too. So maybe that's the sort of counter that Dignitas have in mind for Troll. But I don't know if that's the best counter, as Lifestealer will pick up the last hit. Clairvoyance will go back on the offensive, but he's got to be very careful. The Fissure will block off any pursuing retreat, but here comes Envy and Bone 7 trying to get themselves back to the fight, as Dire going to get their courier killed. Envy with some nice recognition will pick up a pretty easy courier. I don't think it had any items, as trying to drop one last sentry to perhaps pick off the retreating Envy. Sort of good recognition by Envy to pick up the courier as it was retreating, since he realized they couldn't really fight, but it was still risky nonetheless, and Envy always tends to do these risky plays as a carry player, and that's a reason why a lot of people seem to think that Speed Gaming is struggling. And Phase Boots on Weaver, so I'm not too sure behind the rationale of Phase Boots. It does give you a nice amount of damage, but the best part about Phase Boots is the ability to phase, which is why it's called Phase Boots. And Weaver doesn't really need that. He has Shikuchi. So I personally think Treads are better, but I mean, Speed Gaming are the masters of unorthodox item builds, and sometimes, well, more often than not, it definitely works, but sometimes it does come back to bite him in the ass. Keep in mind, Envy did a 35-minute Bloodstone Storm Spear without a BKB, but there's a multitude of disables on the enemy team. So it looks like Dignitas is going to gear up for Roshan. Looks like the advantage that Dignitas have managed to accumulate are remaining relatively steady. Looks like they're prioritizing farming up Infinity to a good degree. Maybe they want to get a fast pipe or a fast blink dagger. But if that's the case, Infinity will be on his way towards securing that goal. And Dignitas finally going to go for Roshan, but I think at this point, yep, with this sword spotting out the movement of Dignitas' heroes, Rattlesnake International, God, Speed Gaming International, gonna be able to recognize that attempt and snuff it out, and all the while, Pilot is gonna get some much needed experience, and this is what I'm a fan of, farming up the Earthshaker, getting a less than 25-minute dagger, and looks like this Pilot is gonna be well on his way to doing just that. Bone 7, he might hook in and then try to force staff out, as Mecha will be used, but unfortunately for Bone 7, the rest of his teammates are nowhere in the vicinity. It looks like they have no intentions of challenging this Roshan, and I guess I agree with them to a certain point. I do think Earthshaker and Crystal Main, as well as Conquer, do pretty well, but Darkseer is the king of Rosh for a reason, and a level 11 Darkseer with 2 points in the wall, 3 points in the vacuum, definitely going to be the king of Roshan for the foreseeable future.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
While the top tower is under siege, the question is, will Dignitas try to defend it? They're not going to bother glyphing up, they're instead just going to let it fall. Dignitas used a lot of time to kill that Roshan, and again, they don't do that much damage unless the teamfight's prolonged. Just seems like a very, you know, these heroes are good, let's just all fit them into the same lineup rather than any sort of synergy. Because they have decent chasing, but not the best chasing. They don't really have much lockdown whatsoever. They don't really have any team fight that synergizes particularly well with Darkseer. This lineup just seems like, alright, it's good, let's pick it. So, I personally don't really see the rationale behind this lineup, but so far they're making work. As there will be a hook engagement, they're going to kill off 1437 super easily. Going to drop one last nuke and then force staff himself out of the way. This Bone 7 will go for the point booster. This could be a casual point booster. Could be an Agnum Scepter. But meanwhile, the question is, will Dignitas try to defend their tier 2? Clairvoyance now has the Basher online, and Envy has the Lincoln Sphere, so both teams are getting their core items online pretty quickly as Darkseer picks up a 4-stab, obviously to try to deal with the Clockwork as well as the Troll to prevent team from getting permabashed. As Clairvoyance is just going in, gonna pick off Pilot Eye without too much of a problem. Sing Sing just gonna look to teleport on out of there. Bash is gonna finally come in for Clairvoyance as Korok will find himself on the receiving end of a couple bashes, but the bashes by Lightsteer are gonna be able to secure the kill from the escaping Sing Sing. It looks like Speed Gang just stuck around a little bit too long. Fortunately for Speed Gang, they don't really have a natural pushing avenue to get themselves more map control, as their heroes are just a little bit too spread out. Korok doesn't really have that much mana, as Korok is going to go for the Agnum Scepter. And another problem for Dignitas is they don't really have the best base breaking lineup, but having an Agnum Scepter on Razor definitely going to go a long way in terms of remedying that. Still breaking the base against an Earthshaker as well as the Crystal Man and Clockwork, going to be incredibly difficult. And I don't think these four heroes on the side of Dignitas can do it at this point. You know, Envy 2,500 gold in the bank. I think Envy is a fan of the Desolator build after the Lincoln Sphere, so I think this will be a Desolator. But knowing that it's Envy and it's Speed Gaming and they do crazy ass item decisions, it wouldn't be surprising if this was a freaking Rod of Atos. You know, beat is earn wards. I mean, beat is Dota. No items. 1437 has a 4-staff as well, so this is a pretty farmed Chen, as he didn't decide to finish the Agnums, instead getting a 4-staff to try to deal with the Perma Bash Troll as well as the Clockwork. As there will be a hookshot initiation onto Korok. These wards are just paying off in spades for the side of Speed Gang. This ward spotting out Korok's movement, and that is going to be another easy kill. These hookshot initiations by Bone 7, pretty useful, and again, the range of Speed Gaming definitely can't be underestimated. Earthshaker, probably one of the best range supports in the game. Clockwork, one of, I guess, the longest range initiation in the game, because his hookshot does have an eventual 3,000 range. Crystal Main, that Nova can be spread to 1,250 range if I'm not mistaken. Weaver, the Swarm has 3,000 range. The only one who doesn't really have that much range is the Troll, but with all those other range abilities, Dignitas have to be very, very careful. And not only do the range help them initiate, it just goes a long way in terms of deterring Dignitas from actually going for a base push. And I think Dignitas realized that in the late stage game, alright, do we have a Darkseer? That's good. We have a Lifestealer? That's good. We have a Razor? That's okay. But against a Weaver and a Blink Dagger Earthshaker and a Clockwork with these sort of range initiations and a Troll, I don't think Dignitas match up nearly as well against Speed Gaming in the late stages game. So there will be a vacuum back onto Sing Sing. Nice 4-staff forward onto Clairvoyance. A 4-staff backwards onto Sing Sing, as Cox will help to preserve Sing Sing's life for the moment. Good communication by both teams, but again, the 4-staff's just simply too much, and the lack of range on Lifestealer means that, well, there's only so much you could do. And also, no disables other than Bane. Still, with the Agnum Scepter finish on Korok, this tower is going to take a lot of damage very quickly, and that means this tower will die in a matter of moments. Clairvoyant's going to find himself hooked up. Aegis still has a little bit of time to take down some Clairvoyant's not going to be too dissuaded by these annoying diversions, but that was a lot of effort just to bring down a tier 2, and there are still 2 tier 2s remaining. And although Envy is split pushing, and you will be able to pick up the last hit on this tower. No, nice deny by Infinity, really well played, nicely timed. Timing it just in between the Gemini attacks, as Clairvoyance will get sent home just barely. Interesting wards by Speed Game. At this late stage of the game, usually it's not too common for teams to keep blocking off the Chen camps, but having this ward just means that Chen's access in jungle, because Chen won't really find himself here naturally, nor will he find himself here naturally. He's going to try to stick around these 3 camps for the most part in order to pick up his creeps, just because they're safer. And of course these camps are a bit more exposed. But with that ward blocking off the camps for a while, that means Chen's access in the creeps is going to be severely limited. Still, Aegis is going to be reclaimed, and if you check out the gold graph, it's nearly even, and the experience graph only slightly in favor of Dignitas. And if you see the levels, Envy's finally hit that magical level 16, which means he has all his abilities maxed up, as well as having that 0 mana cost time-lapse means he can just spam Shikuchis relentlessly. And now with the Desolator, he hurts, and he hurts like a bitch. You know, Bone 7 working his way towards the Agnum, so we'll pick it up relatively soon. Sing Sing seems like he's going to go for a more utility base build, picked up the Vlads as well as drums and Yash to give him a bit more mobility. As AUI, my friend, what are you doing out here? Vacuum will be back online, but he's waiting for the Frostbite in order to use it. There we go. Wanted to make sure that AUI wouldn't be able to escape. AUI will look to teleport on out of there as quickly as it can, as the Dance of Death going to continue, but you recognize if he stayed in place for a bit too long, a wall and other avenues would just mean that AUI would waste 135 gold, and Infinity would have picked up the kill regardless. Looks like Infinity's going to go for the Scythe of Ice. Sometimes we see Darkseers going for the Aghanim Scepter. Sometimes we see them go for the Blink Dagger. I think Scythe of Ice is very useful in this case. One, because, of course, it's Hex, the best disable in the game. Well, one of the best disables. I guess the best disable is probably Lasso or Roar. But another reason is that they desperately need a single target ability to break this frickin' Lincolns. Otherwise, Weaver will just do whatever he wants. And at this point, I mean, Weaver can do whatever he wants if he actually chose to do something, but why take these engagements where you're just more than content to sit back and farm up? Earthshaker has his own dagger, probably going to make his way towards Arcane Boots in order to boost up his mana pool, because, well, he has just barely enough for the whole combo. 75, 205, 280, 280, 450. Alright, he doesn't have enough for the full combo, so he will need the Arcane Boots, or just maybe a Bracer or something, in order for him to actually use the full combo. Meanwhile, Dignitas perhaps recognizing that it's not a good idea to give Rattlesnake too much time, or give Speed Gaming too much time to get themselves back in the game. They're going to apply a bit of pressure, but they know the range on Speed Gaming is something else. They know there's a dagger on Earthshaker, they know there's a hookshot on Clockwork. And Bone 7, will he look to get the initiation? If he had vision, I wouldn't be too surprised to see if Bone 7 just did a spiteful hookshot, then force-staffed himself away to safety. But he didn't have the vision, and that means that the hookshot will be preserved for now. Meanwhile, Clairvoyant still going in, has the Abyssal finish, but he's got to be pretty careful. There isn't much vision protecting his life for the moment. And Lifestealer, he went for a very damage-oriented build, but that will mean that he doesn't really have the most survivability. All he really has is Rage to get himself out of trouble. Meanwhile, Speed Gaming, 4-staff, Crystal Main has a decent amount of HP, so it's going to take a couple of attacks for Lifestealer to actually clean through towards her HP. Matt is now finished on Sing Sing. Crystallis is finished on Envy, and with a double Dancer, and this tower is not going to survive for too much longer. Dignitas, obviously they're going to be a bit worried about defending this because they know Speed Gaming's range is just going to mean that if one person steps slightly out of position, then their whole team could be dragged into an unfavorable fight, and that means this tower will pretty much be given up for free. Meanwhile, this is... Alright, Chen is farming. Good. That's good. Why don't you farm with the Bane? Give him an Ogre Club. Give him something. Because he's just going to die in a couple hits to the Weaver or the Troll. I guess against a Basher it doesn't really matter how many items you have, but if you gave him enough money so he could actually do stuff, then I think Bane could, you know, use the max enfeeble build to a decent effect. I don't know. It just always irks me. And I don't know if it's the team saying, alright, Betas, don't buy any items, or it's Betas saying, alright, guys, I don't need items, but it always seems to sort of come back and bite the teams in the ass, because this support is just way too squishy in order to survive prolonged engagements. I mean, Crystal Maiden doesn't have the best items, but she's still getting a reasonable amount of farm, and Earthshaker can just stay the hell back and then walk forward with an Echo Slam. But Roshan gonna be scouted, and the question is, do Speed Gaming now want to fight? They now have the Earthshaker Blink Dagger, and they have the Clockwork Hookshot, so I think they will try to contest this Roshan a bit more forcefully than they did the last one. But so far it's just 1437 Korok in the Rosh Pit, as Swarm will be used to scout the opponents. A lot of 1437's creeps have died out, as here comes a hookshot, a beautiful two-man hookshot, gonna force-step himself away to safety. 1437 trying to desperately get off his Hand of God, but it's just simply won't be in time. That casting point a little bit too long, and so far Speed Gaming gonna be the victor in this fight. Korok will just use the BKB and charge in, but What is he hoping to accomplish? I'm not too sure because they don't have any disables with the Bane as well as the Chen dead, and that means Korok will take a lot. It's going to get slowed down, and here comes the Fissure. Korok going to get force-staffed away for the moment. Infinity trying to go back in the defensive will be able to preserve Korok's life for now. The Storm still ticking away, The Storm will pick up the last hit, and Infinity going to have to be very, very careful. Look at the Weaver Desolate damage. The Chrysalis Leicester does pick up an Infest kill, but it is going to mean a complete another team wipe. I don't know why Korok charged forward with the BKB, but I think that did cost him in the end. But Dignitas going to buy it back. They don't have the wall. They don't have... Well, they do have the Hand of God, but it's just not going to be in time. The bashes as well as the Desolator means this Roshan will just fall a bit too quickly for Dignitas' liking. Infinity going to surge himself forward. Clairvoyance just getting cut into no end. Hand of God will be used as Clairvoyance just getting bashed into oblivion. Sing Sing gonna perish, but Weaver is still going in. Clairvoyance one hit away. AUI trying to desperately pick up the last hit. Won't be successful as Meow the Nightmare gonna preserve beat his life for a moment. Nice send back as Clairvoyance. Is he really thinking to get himself back in? He just used a buyback, and Weaver is still on the hunt. He's gonna go on the offensive for AUI. AUI trying to teleport away to safety. Meanwhile, Envy will pick up yet another kill. Envy just cleaning up house. Weaver, the king of these chaotic engagements, is Clairvoyance. Oh no, gonna armor toggle, but just simply too much damage. Nightmare not gonna be enough. Weaver gonna pick up another kill and gonna be more than happy to pay for it with his Aegis. That was a death buyback death for the Lightstealer, and all the while Envy's still going in. Gonna be able to time lapse away to safety, but time lapse straight to 0 HP. Oh my god. 5 seconds did not elapse. But I don't think it needs to be said. That was a tremendously overwhelming victory by the side of Speed Gaming. And Earthshaker didn't even... No, he did drop the Echo Slam. Yeah, he definitely dropped the Echo Slam because beat his... Or 1437 couldn't cast Hand of God. But those long chaotic team fights with the Weaver on your side, when you have no lockdown like Dignitas does, means that you are going to lose the team fights 90% of the time, even if there is a Darkseer. And 1437, the wards. Well, you'll learn now. So now Dignitas is definitely crumbling. And I think this has a large fact to do with the draft. The draft just really coming through right now. Sure, Speed Gaming sacrificed a bit of their early game potential, but they're chasing a mid game potential against the sort of clusterfuck that Dignitas' draft has. I mean, Dignitas' draft isn't really designed to win super early, and it simply can't win super early against an Earthshaker and Clockwork. Is Weaver gonna find himself surged up? Time-lapse is back online as there will be a hookshot, another 2-man cogs, and a 4-step way to safety. And the wall was dropped in the end, but now it looks like Speed Gaming just gonna happily wander to the top lane, avoid the wall for the moment. I mean, that was definitely the right move to drop the wall since Darkseer, he bought back in the previous engagement and he's dead for 60 seconds, so it's not like the wall would have been useful. But that is going to mean this tier 2 is going to die, and Speed Gaming now just riding on a surge of momentum. And I don't think Dignitas have the best comeback mechanics on their team. They don't really have the best AoE ultimates. I mean, they have Darkseer Wall, but Vacuum really needs other spells in order to be effective. You can't simply rely on Plasma Field and Infest, especially when you have no other AoE disables. I mean, if you count it, Dignitas have 0 AoE disables. The Clairvoyant's going in, gonna get the perma bash. Envy will die. Good focus fire as Pilot tries to do whatever he can. Buyback and time lapse though by Envy means that he will be more than happy to clean up shop. 1437 gonna die. Beat is, well, tried to get sent back home. Wasn't nearly successful as GG is gonna be the call. Speed Gang pick up the win. And I think, again, it has to go back to the draft. What was Dignitas' draft supposed to accomplish? I don't think they could give a clear-cut answer other than, well, these heroes are good, let's try to make them work. But against a Weaver, you're going to need more than, well, we have a Bane to sort of mitigate that fact. Otherwise, Weaver will just run rampant over the team. So, in the end, that is going to be a Game 1 victory towards Speed Gaming. Again, this is from the Netolic Pro League Season 4. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I'll be back with Game 2 relatively soon. So thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.